Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is a story of what if Naruto and Sasuke was like Hashirama and Madara. Naruto and Sasuke will be strong. Naruto will have a wood release and he is a Senju. Sasuke will, as you all know, an Uchiha. Now let's start the story. Chapter 8. 8th chapter is out. I was going to say something here, but I've completely forgotten what it was. Ah well, enjoy. As Sasuke jumped from tree to tree, he blinked suddenly when he noticed something. Looking down, he saw that his left hand was trembling slightly. What the hell, he muttered in confusion. I've been having a bad feeling for a while now, but for it to have physical symptoms. Naruto. Sasuke stopped on a branch and looked over his shoulder, back toward Konoha. This was annoying. He had given Hinata those words of comfort, but in all honesty, he was worried about Naruto. After all, an enemy that felt they were strong enough to take on the Hokage had to be some enemy. TCH. Focus, he berated himself as he jumped off again, continuing his pursuit. Just like Naruto, I have a job to do. Although, it was Sasuke who had given Naruto the order to help the Hokage. If anything happened to Naruto, he gave a burst of speed, blurring out of view when he saw his prey, to reappear in front of them, which caused the trio of Suna ninja to freeze in their tracks. Shit. Temari muttered, still badly burned from her fight with Sasuke. This is as far as you go, Sasuke said coldly. I'd really prefer it if you just gave up. I have a friend to check on, after all. But, if you'd rather this got bloody. A smirk spread on Sasuke's face as he reached back, grabbing the hilt of his sword. Temari, Kankuro said as he took off the bundle on his back and set it down, take Gaara and go ahead. Yeah. Temari said and made to jump off, only for a kunai to impact with the branch they had landed on, right in front of Temari's feet. Maybe I didn't make myself clear, Sasuke said, having used his free hand to throw the kunai. This is as far as any of you are going to go, not just the cross-dressing cat boy. Kankuro twitched in anger and glared at Sasuke. Why, you little shit. Temari, regardless of the warning, leapt off, which made Sasuke grunt and prepare a jutsu, only to have to dodge a kunai thrown in his direction by Kankuro. TCH. You made me into a liar. Sasuke muttered, glaring at Kankuro. Guess I'll have to teach you a lesson. No, came a monotone voice that Sasuke easily recognized, and he looked to his left to see none other than Shino standing on another branch. I'll be his opponent. Shino, Sasuke muttered. Why are you here? Shino raised his hand to point at him. Before you left the arena, I used some female bugs to spread their scent on you. The scent of the female is nearly non-existent. Only the males of the same species can trace the faint scent of such females, although the males themselves have a stronger scent. Uchiha Sasuke, you chase after Gaara. Why? Your match with him has yet to be decided. I'll fight this one. You're rather confident, Sasuke commented. You think you can do it? Don't worry, Shino said. I'll keep him off your back for 10 minutes. Thanks, Shino, Sasuke said, turning around and pursuing Temari. When he finally caught up to them, he found Gaara standing, having stopped the retreat. He had apparently also sent Temari flying into a tree, judging by how she was slumped against it, half-conscious. Yo, Sasuke said with a smirk. You took off before our match was decided. Could it be that you're afraid of me just because I poked a little hole in your body? Gaara grunted and hunched over, clutching at his head, a bit of droll running down his chin. When he looked up again, it looked as though the right half of his face was starting to crack. You, who are strong. You, who have companions. You, who has an ambition. You, who are like me, he muttered, a crazed grin appearing on his face once again. Once I kill you, I will be the one to have destroyed all of that. Only then can I survive. Only then can I feel alive. Sasuke opened his mouth to remark upon Gaara's lack of sanity, when the redhead dropped to his knees, clutching at his head once more. The Uchiha watched in shock as Gaara's right arm, along with the right half of his face, transformed into some kind of sand demon thingy or something. Sand demon thingy or something. Sasuke repeated, contemplating on how that description could possibly have entered his head. Shit, I've been hanging around Naruto for too long. Sasuke activated his Sharingan, staring at Gaara intently. This chakra. It kinda reminds me of that chakra that keeps bleeding into Naruto's system. Does that mean he's a demon container? But Naruto never goes half freak like this. The seal holding this demon probably isn't as sophisticated. Gaara suddenly flung himself at Sasuke, whose eyes widened as he drew his Chikudo, ducked under a swing, and slashed, intending to slice off the demonic right arm that had been aiming to take his head off. Crap. Sasuke thought as the blade dug into the arm, but it was like slicing through stone. No, Sasuke could slice through stone without a problem. This was different. The sand arm was so dense that Sasuke couldn't cut through it. It was like the sand was constantly pressing together, even closing the cut around Sasuke's sword. This, coupled with the fact that Gaara's swing packed a massive amount of power, left Sasuke with two choices: either hold on to the sword and be flung away, or let go of it. Letting go, Sasuke leapt away just as the arm smashed into the branch Sasuke had been standing on, hitting it with so much force that the pressure kept going, blasting away the trees in front of it and kicking up a massive amount of dust. That's some monstrous strength, Sasuke thought as he hid behind a tree. I think it may even be greater than Naruto's. One hit with that and I'm history. Are you afraid of me, Uchiha Sasuke? Gaara roared, sounding gleeful. Afraid of my existence? What's the matter? Are you afraid of me? Has your fear overtaken the hatred, the killing urge? Is your reason for existence as puny as that? If you crave an answer, come and get me. The chirping of a large amount of birds approaching at an insane speed was Gaara's only warning, before a hand encased in lightning burst out of the sand covering the right side of his chest, making him cry out in what could only be described as unbearable agony. You're too loud, Sasuke said from behind him as he slowly pulled his hand back, until it was inside Gaara's body. I'll have my sword back now. With that, Sasuke spun and slashed to the right, slicing his hand through Gaara's arm, splitting it in two and knocking loose the sword that was still lodged in his arm. Sasuke kept spinning, his left hand lashing out and catching the sword, flipping it in his hand. Then, he completed the spin by using the momentum to give his stab extra speed as he impaled Gaara through the left side of his chest with the sword. Gaara screamed again, but surprisingly, the scream turned into maniacal laughter, which was the only warning Sasuke got, before the split arm swung back and impacted with his cheek, sending him flying and causing the sword to yank out of Gaara's body. I see. Gaara growled out with a dark chuckle as Sasuke flipped in the air and landed on another branch. So that's what it was, the reason why I'm so excited. I just got the answer. It's this pain. Defeating a man strong enough to hurt me and utterly destroying him, that's what gives me an even greater sense of existence. Bit of a psycho, aren't you? Sasuke asked as he rubbed his aching cheek. More. Gaara screamed with a maniacal laugh. I want more. Sasuke watched as more of Gaara's body transformed, a tail of sand sprouting from his tailbone. Here I come. Gaara roared as he shot towards Sasuke again, making his eyes widen. He's faster than before, Sasuke thought, dodging at the last second as Gaara tore through the branch he had been standing on. As he flew through the air, claws in his right arm shot outward and wrapped around tree branches, stretching like as they slowed the airborne Gaara down, and then they flung him back towards Sasuke, who flashed through handseals. Kaiten. Ryuka no Jutsu, he called, blowing a white-hot stream of fire at Gaara. Gaara, however, was unaffected by the fire, flying straight through it at Sasuke, who only managed to raise his arms in a block before he reached him. The blow impacting with his forearms sent Sasuke flying, grunting in pain. That blow hurt. I think I got a crack in my forearm from that blow. Sasuke thought, gritting his teeth. His back impacted with a tree incredibly hard, making him grunt again. Ow. Sasuke muttered. Maybe it would have been better if Naruto fought this freak, while I protected the Hokage. For being two dead guys, the two deceased brothers were incredibly nimble, dodging the swings from Sarutobi's staff with ease. Naruto stood back, watching the old man fight. He wanted to join in, he wanted to help, but he had never fought with Sarutobi before. They hadn't even sparred together. He'd probably just get in the way. And there he'd been talking about how he'd be better suited to fight with him. These guys were on a whole other level. Behind the fighting trio, Naruto could see Orochimaru tilting his head back and opening his mouth. A snake came out of it, opening its mouth as well and producing a long sword, which fell down and landed with the hilt in Orochimaru's hand. He charged at Sarutobi when the old man's back was turned, not seeing the attack. There was a clang as Orochimaru swung his sword, and to his surprise was blocked by a kunai, courtesy of Naruto who had blurred into view behind the Hokage. Naruto's eyes widened, However, when the sword sliced straight through the kunai, his forearm came up and blocked the sword next, this time succeeding in doing so. You are quite inventive, Naruto-kun. Orochimaru said with smirk. Not only have you managed to duplicate the secret behind Tsunade Heime's monstrous strength, but you have also managed to figure out how to use chakra to reinforce your skin. Thanks for the compliment. Naruto muttered, a shaky grin on his face. It actually hurts me to compliment a freak like you, but I have to say, it's an honor to fight ya. That must require a tremendous amount of concentration, though, Orochimaru said, still smirking. I suppose I'm right in assuming that you cannot form that chakra armor on more than your arms in the heat of battle. Naruto gave off a tch at being found out so easily. Then again, Orochimaru wasn't considered a prodigy for nothing. Naruto-kun, be careful. Sarutobi called, blocking strikes from the two Hokage. Like I wasn't already. Naruto muttered, pushing the sword away, then taking a swing at Orochimaru, who dodged. Don't give him time to counter. Naruto thought as he swung at Orochimaru again and again, pushing his speed to the limit. Don't let him take the offensive. As expected, Orochimaru thought, still smirking as he was forced to keep dodging the punches and kicks Naruto threw at him. His attacks are even more powerful than the time in the forest. If I try to block, he will surely break my arms. Naruto-kun. What a monstrous shinobi you turned out to be. Orochimaru deflected a punch and rolled along Naruto's arm, swinging his elbow into the back of Naruto's neck. Naruto grunted and stumbled forward, only to have his collar caught by Orochimaru. The snake man pulled him back and caused him to spin around to face him, at which point Orochimaru drove his knee up into Naruto's gut. Naruto didn't even have time to process how much that knee hurt before he had to raise his arms to block a swing from the sword. Tch. Naruto uttered as he leapt back, feeling the blade slicing into his arms. Didn't have time to put on the armor properly. Don't slow down, Naruto-kun, or you'll die, Orochimaru said, charging at Naruto, who ducked a nanosecond before the blade of the sword sliced through the air where his head had just been. Originally, my intention was simply kill Sarutobi-sensei, but testing your skill like this is very amusing to me. Not such a big test if you keep dodging, Naruto said, a small grin on his face. You won't really be able to gauge how much my punches hurt if you don't let him hit you. Cute, Orochimaru commented, getting on the offensive, coming at Naruto with fast slashes and kicks that were barely dodged. Shit. He's faster than me, no doubt about that. He's just toying with me right now. I can't hit him not matter how fast I attack. I need to get him to stand still. Naruto blinked when he came up with an idea. That's it. Naruto stopped rather suddenly, and grunted in pain as the sword stabbed him straight through the upper part of his chest. Naruto-kun. Sarutobi yelled out in alarm, while Orochimaru adopted a suspicious look. You didn't dodge, he commented. Naruto coughed up some blood, then grinned suddenly as his hand shot up and gripped Orochimaru's collar. Try to dodge this, he exclaimed, then swung. The punch impacted with Orochimaru with such force that it sent the snake flying through the air, the sword ripping out of Naruto's body. Orochimaru flew straight into the Shodai, but didn't stop, taking him with him as they flew into the Nadaime. The three tumbled across the roof and landed in a heap. Gotcha. Naruto muttered with a triumphant grin, clutching at the wound in his chest. Naruto-kun. Sarutobi exclaimed, rushing over. Why did you do that? Needed him to stay still. Naruto muttered. I dodged enough to avoid him hitting any vital spots. That was quite the punch, Naruto-kun. Orochimaru commented as he and the two Hokage got to their feet. Orochimaru's head was twisted 180 degrees, and was hanging down his back, his neck snapped. His body jerked, and the head snapped up back into place, at which point they saw that the skin was hanging loose from his face, and his jaw had clearly been dislocated. Orochimaru reached up and grabbed his jaw, forcing it back in place. What the hell is he? Naruto asked in shock, staring at Orochimaru with wide eyes. I will have to tell you that story later, Sarutobi said, putting his hand in a half-ram seal. Suddenly, an explosion went off on the Shodai's left leg, swiftly followed by one on the Nadaime's right. When the smoke cleared, the two dead men could be seen standing on one leg. The Shodai had his left leg and left hand blown off, and the Nadaime had his right leg and right hand blown off. Explosive tags. Naruto asked, nodding in approval. Nice. Their victory didn't last long, however, as the blown-off limbs regenerated at an alarming speed. Just as I thought, Sarutobi muttered. Something must be done about the souls that are trapped by the Edo Tensei, or it's no use, it would seem. What's the matter, Sarutobi-sensei? Orochimaru asked, sounding amused. Your breath seems to be coming rather fast, you know. There is only one jutsu that can end this, Sarutobi muttered to Naruto, clapping his hands together. Orochimaru chuckled, however, and smirked widely at Sarutobi. You've grown old, haven't you? I've never seen you strain so much. He chuckled again, which got him a glare from Sarutobi. What's so funny? It's so pitiful, you know, Orochimaru said, reaching up to his own face. Even you, the one who was hailed as the god of shinobi, cannot defeat old age. Orochimaru tore off the skin that was hanging off his face, to show another face underneath, that of a young woman, which made Naruto's eyes widen. Who the hell are you? Sarutobi demanded. Is it that much of a shock that you can't figure it out? The woman asked with a creepy chuckle. It's me. I'm Orochimaru. Sarutobi's eyes widened at that. You can't mean. You already finished that kinjutsu. It's been more than 10 years since I left the village. I suffered quite a bit. You terrifying, inhuman creature, you. Sarutobi growled. One of the reasons I didn't choose you to be the Yondaime was because of your twisted ideology. I'm lost. Naruto muttered, which made Orochimaru chuckle again. It's quite simple, Naruto-kun. This immortality jutsu is a technique where you anchor your soul to this world forever. In other words, it's a reincarnation technique where you find a new body, enter it with your soul, and gain possession of it, Orochimaru said, then looked to Sarutobi. The reason why I disguised myself as my old self until now was, because I thought I'd let you feel nostalgic about the past. To grow old. How destitute it must be. When I look at you, I can feel it deeply. You will die here, and I will obtain an even younger, more beautiful, stronger body. Konoha really entertains me to no end. Sarutobi narrowed his eyes at that. Then, they widened in realization. I see. Uchiha Sasuke. Huh. Yes, that's exactly it, Orochimaru said with a nod. It's Sasuke-kun. What? Naruto barked, giving Orochimaru a glare. Like I'd let you take him. You have commendable spirit, Naruto-kun. I hope it lasts, Orochimaru said, smirking. A reincarnation jutsu that steals the body of another and makes the soul immortal, eh? What number face, body, is that one, Sarutobi wanted to know. I believe it's the second one, Orochimaru said. I intend to possess Sasuke-kun after he grows up a bit more to my tastes. He gave a creepy chuckle which sent all the wrong shivers down Naruto's spine. He reached up for his face, covering it with his hand. But to have you die, cursing your fate and regretting your entire life. I suppose this face would be best. When Orochimaru removed his hand, his old face was back, and Naruto was surprised to find himself thinking that he felt more comfortable this way. It seems I'll have to kill you now and correct my past mistake, Sarutobi said, forming a very familiar handseal. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Ha! You really have grown old, Orochimaru said with a laugh. To think you'd shorten your own lifespan out of impatience. Naruto-kun, Sarutobi said, going through a chain of 9 handseals, please try your hardest to make sure my Kage Bunshin aren't dispelled. Why, Gigi? Naruto asked in confusion. The order of the seals, came Enma's voice from the staff that was laying forgotten on the ground. There's not mistaking it. Sarutobi's going to use that jutsu. What jutsu? Naruto barked in frustration. Sarutobi looked intrigued over his shoulder at something. Naruto had no idea what he was looking at. It was as though only the Sandaime could see it. It's already too late, Orochimaru said. No matter what you do, I've won. Konoha is going to be demolished. Konoha is my home, Sarutobi proclaimed. The Hokage is one who continues to act as the main pillar of the house, protecting it. He's the one who carries the will of fire, entrusted with it. It won't be easy for you. The Shodai went through a chain of handseals, and then Naruto noticed how everything around him got covered in blackness. He could see nothing but himself. Genjutsu, he thought, putting his hands in a ram seal. Kai. Nothing happened. That surprised Naruto, as he had never encountered a genjutsu before that he couldn't release from. What absurd nonsense, he heard Orochimaru's voice through the darkness. You're just, for a short while, one of the leaders in the history of the organization called Konoha. Even the remains of the rock portrait will eventually fade and crumble. To me, Konoha isn't just an organization, Sarutobi retorted. Every year, there are a lot of shinobi born and raised in Konoha. They live and fight to protect the village, and to protect what's precious to them, they will go to their death. Even if we are not related by blood, the people of this village are, to me, my most precious, most important, family. In the past, Naruto had heard the Sandaime speak words like this, but never before had he been so moved by them. It was one thing to hear the old man speak of it in an office, and another to hear him speak those words in the middle of a battle, protecting the village and risking his life. Naturally, Orochimaru had to spoil it by laughing at his proclamation. Well then, I'll break you in half, the main pillar, that is, and that'll destroy the house, Konoha. Sarutobi scoffed. Even if you were to kill me, the beam won't break. I am the man who inherited the will of fire, the will of the Shodai and Nadaime Hokage. I am the Sandaime Hokage. No matter how much you target Konoha, there will be a new Hokage who'll inherit my will, and become the pillar to protect the house of Konoha. Gigi. Naruto called through the darkness. Where are you? Stay back, Naruto-kun. Orochimaru, I'll show you a special jutsu that even you don't know about. Fuin Jutsu. Shiki Fusion, sealing technique. Dead demon consuming seal. Shiki. Naruto repeated in shock. Gigi. What are you, Naruto-kun? Please try to locate Shodai-sama and Nadaime-sama, Sarutobi ordered, which made Naruto tense up as he was told, molding chakra. Shiki Fusion, that's the seal my old man used to seal the Kyuubi into my gut, isn't it? A jutsu I am unfamiliar with, came Orochimaru's voice through the darkness. Please show it to me, this so-called jutsu. A sound reached Naruto's ear, the sound of a blade slicing through flesh, and blood spattering on the ground, followed by Sarutobi grunting in pain. Gigi. Naruto-kun, just focus. What's the matter? Orochimaru asked. Do you intend to let the former Hokage kill you bit by bit as they toy with you? Please, hurry up and present this jutsu to me. This damn genjutsu. Naruto thought in frustration as he got to working on the task Sarutobi had assigned to him. The Shodai's chakra is all over the place. I can barely even sense the old man. But the Nadaime. Naruto's eyes widened. Gigi. The clone to your left, 3 o'clock, he called, then focused harder. On your right, 6 o'clock. The sound of scurrying footsteps were heard, and then Sarutobi called, got you. Naruto waited for the longest few seconds of his life, then watched as the darkness bled away. He found the 2 clones of Sarutobi holding onto his predecessors. Something had happened to them, as their bodies started crumbling, and their personalities seemed to return. Sorry, Sarutobi, the Shodai muttered. We've caused you a lot of trouble, the Nadaime said with a small grin. Please forgive me, Shodai-sama. Nadaime-sama, the real Sarutobi requested, screwing his eyes shut. The 2 clones seemed to pull something out of the corpses, and Naruto noticed that their shirts had perfectly round holes in the chest. Fuin, the 2 clones exclaimed in unison, flinching in pain, and Naruto saw the seals appear on their chests, that seal that Naruto was so familiar with. Only their seals were different. This seal didn't have a 4-element seal around it, but instead something else. The dirt and dust that made up the Shodai and Nadaime crumbled, to reveal underneath 2 teenagers, 2 of the Oto ninja that had taken part in the Chunin exam, to be exact, Zaku and Kin. You treat even the lives of your subordinates so lightly. Sarutobi muttered. Naruto watched as tears started flowing down the old man's face. The lives of your subordinates. Orochimaru repeated with a glare. How long do you intend to keep spouting such nonsense? Come, Enma. Sarutobi called as his 2 clones puffed out of existence. The staff came soaring from the ground into his waiting hand, and Sarutobi charged. With surprising speed, Sarutobi clashed with Orochimaru and managed to knock his sword out of his hands. Enma's arm suddenly grew from the staff, heading straight for Orochimaru, but the snake freak lashed out with his hand, and a large amount of snakes shot out of his sleeve to wrap around it. Shit! Enma exclaimed as he was dropped to the ground, canceling his henge as Sarutobi rushed forward and grabbed Orochimaru. This is the end, Sarutobi exclaimed. Orochimaru's eyes widened, and he gave off a grunt of pain. Something was happening that hurt him bad, and he twitched his finger. The sword that was on the ground behind Sarutobi rose into the air, pointed at the old Hokage's back, then shot straight toward him. Die! Both Sarutobi and Orochimaru yelled at the same time. A squelching sound was heard as the sword pierced flesh. However, it hadn't hit Sarutobi. Naruto had thrown himself between the Hokage and the sword, taking it to the chest and averting it. Gah! Naruto exclaimed in pain. Throwing himself in front of it hadn't exactly allowed him to maneuver to avoid any vital spots. As such, he could feel that the sword had pierced him straight through his right lung. You brat! Orochimaru grunted out. Let the old man do his thing, you snake freak. Naruto muttered, a small grin on his face as he clutched at the sword, feeling his breath becoming labored. He could feel the blood pooling into his lung. And no interruptions. Sasuke, standing in front of Gaara with a determined look on his face, suddenly went wide-eyed as a shiver went down his spine. This feeling, he thought in shock as he looked toward Konoha. Naruto. Die, Uchiha Sasuke. Sasuke looked toward Gaara in surprise, having completely forgotten about the redhead, to see him just a couple of feet away from him, his demonic right hand reaching out to grab him. Sasuke-kun. A lavender blur came from Sasuke's right, slamming into Gaara and sending him veering off course. Hinata. Sasuke uttered in surprise, seeing the Hyuga girl standing in front of him, looking fought to fight for another few hours. You took care of the tail, then. Yes, Hinata said with a nod. I'm sorry I'm late, Sasuke-kun, but I encountered Shino-kun on the way here. He had been poisoned, and I couldn't just leave him. Kankuro. Sasuke asked in alarm. Shino-kun had already defeated his enemy. I treated Shino-kun as best I could, then hurried here. Good thing you did, Sasuke admitted. I was a bit distracted. I noticed. That was sloppy of you, Sasuke-kun. Sasuke blinked at hearing that, giving Hinata an incredulous look. That was sloppy of me, he asked, sounding impressed. Wow, we have been rubbing off on you. In any other circumstance, he was sure Hinata would have giggled at that, but her Byakugan was solely focused on Gaara right now. The redhead was getting up, growling loudly, and still looking quite insane. He was transforming further. His left arm turned demonic as well, as did the rest of his face and upper body. Now, only his legs were still human. Gaara spread out his arms, and Sasuke saw bulges appearing along them, taking pointed shapes. Then, he flung his arms forward, sending a large amount of what Sasuke recognized as shuriken made of sand at them. Hinata. Sasuke exclaimed, redying his sword. His Sharingan helped him see each shuriken headed for him, and with 3 quick slashes, all of them were sliced in half, missing him completely, while Hinata nimbly dodged those heading for her. Hinata, stay out of this fight, Sasuke ordered, narrowing his eyes as he stared into Gaara's own. Sasuke-kun. Hinata uttered in surprise. This is kind of personal for me, Sasuke said. So please, stay on the sidelines. You've done more than your fair share today. Hinata hesitated for a few moments, but then nodded and jumped off. Now that they were alone, Sasuke closed his eyes, took a deep, steadying breath, then opened them to stare into Gaara's eyes once more. Those eyes, he thought, gritting his teeth. They're so damn familiar. Once, I saw those eyes whenever I looked into a mirror, whenever I looked at Naruto. This guy knows loneliness. If I hadn't found Naruto, would that be me? Gaara drew in a deep breath, mouths opening up all over his body, all of them inhaling as well. Then, Gaara blew out a massive amount of air and sand. Sasuke smirked at that and flashed through hand seals. Kaiten. Ryuka no Jutsu, he called, exhaling a massive stream of fire, which impacted with Gaara's attack, sucked in all the air and grew hotter, smashing straight into the redhead. Unlike the last time he tried this, the Ryuka succeeded this time in harming Gaara, who screamed in pain as he was thrown off the branch he was standing on, flying through the air and smashing into the forest floor. Sasuke leapt down and landed some distance away from Gaara, taking in his appearance. The sand armor covering Gaara had pretty much melted. He looked more like something hastily clumped together with wet sand than a demon now. You should stay down, Sasuke urged him. The way you fight is all wrong. There's no way you can beat me. Shut up. Gaara roared, raising his hand to attack. Too slow. Sasuke exclaimed as he rushed forward, his sword catching on fire. He slashed 3 times as he ran past Gaara, and once more a scream was heard from the redhead as most of his sand arms and his tail were sliced off. See. Give up now. No way. Gaara uttered raspily. There's just no way. There's no way I can lose. With his Sharingan, Sasuke suddenly saw Gaara's chakra supply drastically increase, and he leapt away in time for a large amount of sand to encase Gaara, making him grow and grow. Within only a few seconds, there stood a massive, demonic tanuki made of sand, with markings all over its body. Shit. Sasuke muttered as he bit his thumb, then went through a few handseals, before pressing his hand against the ground. Kuchio's no jutsu. There was an explosion of smoke, and when it cleared, Sasuke was standing on top of Nekomata, who was considerably smaller than the creature of sand. What is? Sasuke, huh? What do you want? Nekomata demanded, looking up at Sasuke, who just pointed at Gaara. What? That's Shukaku. Shukaku. Sasuke repeated. One of the 9 Biju, the one-tailed spirit of the sand, Shukaku, Nekomata muttered, humming. You want my help fighting him? Yes. HRHM. I can't grow quite that big, but I can grow somewhat bigger. Should help, I suppose, Nekomata said as he closed his eyes in concentration. Slowly, his body grew larger and larger, until his head was poking out over the treetops. Even then, he was only half as tall as the Shukaku. This is as big as I can get, but it's more than enough for me. Hold on tight, Sasuke. Nekomata shot forward at an amazing speed, then leapt at Gaara, his claws growing to an insane size. He slashed, his claws digging into the sand monster's shoulder. A grunt was heard from Nekomata as he flipped over Gaara and landed hard behind him, Gaara's arm flying off and crashing into the ground. Ho, dense kid, Nekomata commented, a grin spreading on his face. Haven't fought anyone like this in a long time. You're an interesting summoner, brat. But I'd prefer it if you didn't call me out for things like this in the future. You, fun. Came Gaara's voice from the monster. This is fun, Uchiha Sasuke. Bit unstable, isn't it? Nekomata commented, chuckling softly. It's to be expected, holding the Shukaku. Gaara rose from the monster's forehead, until he was buried up to the waist. Thank you for keeping me entertained so far. Gaara said as he put his hands in a ram seal. Now I'll show you the true power of the sand demon. So, that's the medium, huh? Nekomata said. He shows signs of insomnia, from being possessed by Shukaku. Insomnia? Sasuke asked, looking down at Nekomata, who scoffed. Do a bit of reading once in a while, brat. Those possessed by the Tanuki demon Shukaku become such that they can't even have a single night of decent sleep, because of the terror. If they sleep, their personality is eaten away by Shukaku, bit by bit, until they disappear. Nekomata explained, still grinning at the sight before him. Because the medium suffers from a lack of sleep, their personality tends to be unstable. While the medium's awake, Shukaku's powers are suppressed. But should he fall asleep on his own, then. Nekomata didn't have time to finish, as at that point, Gaara called out, Tanuki Niri no Jutsu, feigning sleep technique. Ah, crap. Nekomata muttered, the grin vanishing from his face. Ha ha ha. The demon in front of them suddenly laughed in a decidedly shriller voice. I'm finally out. Shukaku looked around, then laid his eyes on Nekomata, whooping with glee. And here's someone I wanna kill. He raised his arm as his stomach bulged. Fuuton. Renkuudan, wind element, drilling air bullet. The Shukaku slammed his hand into his stomach and fired a massive ball of compressed air at Nekomata, who leapt into the air, avoiding the attack. Damn it, Sasuke, he yelled as they flew through the air. I didn't give you the contract so you could have me fight freaking demons. I thought you'd give me easy targets, like humans. Quit complaining, Sasuke said, holding onto Nekomata's fur tightly. How many can claim to have fought a Biju and survived? Not many, Nekomata admitted as they landed, and he immediately had to dodge to the side to avoid another ball of air. Because most are smart enough to avoid fighting them. Nekomata ducked under another ball, grunting in discomfort. Now I remember why I didn't want to give my contract to anyone. Sasuke. Wake up the medium and break the jutsu. Just smacking him once should do it. I'll get in close, but not for too long. I'm ready, Sasuke announced, which made Nekomata grin as he dashed forward even faster than before, dodging left and right to avoid air balls fired at him. Once he came within distance, Nekomata jumped, digging his claws into Shukaku's shoulders and flipping over him. Sasuke leapt from Nekomata's head straight at Gaara, cocking his fist back and giving him his hardest punch. Sheet. Shukaku cried as Sasuke landed on his nose. I only just came out. And now, Shukaku stiffened, and his eyes went dead as Gaara's eyes opened to glare at Sasuke. I'm going to kill you. Gaara growled out. My existence will continue. Sasuke charged forward. He was slower than usual, as he felt his feet sinking into the sand demon with every step. Gaara wasn't fast enough to catch him, though, as Sasuke had reached him. Enough. Sasuke yelled as he threw another punch, this one smashing straight into Gaara's face, right between his non-existent eyebrows. Gaara's expression froze in shock, and suddenly the entire demon started cracking and crumbling. The two ninja fell through the air as the creature collapsed into sand. Gaara slammed into the ground with an audible thump, while Sasuke landed on his feet, exhaling slowly. This whole fight had been very draining, he had to admit. Sasuke, I'm heading back. Don't call me to fight demons again. Nekomata barked, before disappearing with an explosion of smoke. Sasuke drew in a deep breath, then exhaled again, before looking to Gaara, who was staring at him with wide, panicked eyes. Get away from me. Gaara exclaimed fearfully, which made Sasuke smirk. Don't worry, I'm not going to kill you, Sasuke said, staring at Gaara with something akin to pity in his eyes. I kind of empathize with you. I was like you once. The loneliness is a terrible thing. It changes you, it hurts you, you feel like you would do anything to have it end. Funny thing is, I could have been like you. Sasuke smiled softly and looked up at the sky. But then, I met someone. He was like you and me. Just as alone. But he never gave up. He never gave in. I was about to let the darkness swallow me up. I was ready to live alone. But he was a proverbial light. He saved me from the hell of being alone. For that, I will do all in my power to protect him. You attacking Konoha, threatening it. His dream is my dream. His dream is to forever protect the village. So for his sake, I will destroy you if you so much as lift another finger against Konoha. Sasuke's Sharingan disappeared, and he looked back down at the shocked Gaara. Naruto didn't just help me out of the darkness. He showed me the path to becoming as strong as I can be. He once told me that when a shinobi has something important to protect, that's when his true strength comes out. I have found this to be true. Whenever I fight, my sole focus is on protecting him and my team. It makes me fight harder, and helps me win. In a blur, Temari and Kankuro landed between Gaara and Sasuke, ready to fight. You're a strong guy, Sabaku no Gaara, Sasuke said as he turned his back on the Suna Genin, walking off. It'd be nice if you put that power to better use. I'll let you live today, but if you ever threaten Konoha again. Sasuke looked at Gaara over his shoulder, his Sharingan blazing again. I'll kill you. You bastard. Temari hissed, reaching for her fan. That's enough. Gaara muttered, which made the two look back at him. It's over. Kankuro hesitated for a moment, but then picked Gaara up, muttering, all right, before jumping off with his sister. Naruto coughed up blood as he lay on the roof, struggling to get up. This blade, is it poisoned? He thought, gritting his teeth. I can barely move. Gigi, he uttered, looking to Sarutobi. Something was happening. Both Orochimaru and the Hokage seemed to be seeing something that Naruto couldn't see. Was it that Shinigami that Sarutobi had said would appear when using that jutsu? Could only the caster and the victim see it? Looks like. I don't have enough strength left to pull all of your soul out. Sarutobi muttered. Could you please die already? Sarutobi-sensei. Orochimaru grunted out, sweating from the pain he was going through. But, your ambitions end here. Sarutobi proclaimed, ignoring his student. They end here. Orochimaru repeated, glaring at Sarutobi. Orochimaru stopped speaking suddenly, flinching in pain and looking down, a bit of panic entering his eyes. Good, it's begun the separation process. Sarutobi said. My ambition will not end. You will die here. Orochimaru roared. Your ambition won't affect the village any longer. Sarutobi stated with a glare. TCH. You've grown old, Sandaime Hokage. Do you have the strength to rescue the village? Look around you. I've ordered my subordinates, the shinobi of Sunagakur and Otogakure, to come and infiltrate the village. Your Konoha shinobi will be annihilated, down to the women and children. Konoha will crumble. You should know, Orochimaru, not to take the shinobi of this village lightly. Sarutobi said confidently. Konoha's shinobi are all protecting the village. They fight with all their might. True strength is not in mastery of ninjutsu. I was never able to teach you. When they are protecting something important, that's when a shinobi's true strength appears. A boring speech. Orochimaru grunted out, which made Sarutobi smirk. This is good. I don't feel like letting you off now. For you, who is obsessed with jutsu, this is the appropriate punishment. To steal all of your jutsu. What? Naruto watched as Sarutobi gave a strained yell, evidently focusing hard on his task, and Orochimaru looked up in what was unmistakably fear. Can't be. Stop it. As though a rope between them had suddenly been cut, Sarutobi was pulled away from Orochimaru and cried, Fuin. Gigi. Naruto choked out, watching as the seal appeared on Sarutobi's chest. You won't be able to use either arm. Sarutobi mumbled weakly. You won't be able to use them because both are completely sealed. You no longer have any jutsu. Orochimaru grunted in pain as his arms started to blacken. The fear in his eyes was slowly replaced by a considerable amount of rage. You were unsuccessful in destroying Konoha, Sarutobi said, sounding pleased. You old fart. Orochimaru roared. Give me back my arms. You're foolish, Orochimaru, Sarutobi said, a small smile on his face. They've both been completely destroyed. My apprentice, we'll meet again in another world. Your light is blown out, old man. Orochimaru yelled. All my jutsu. With a pleased smile on his face, Sarutobi's eyes drifted shut, and he fell backward, mumbling, when the tree leaves dance, one shall find flames. The fire's shadow will illuminate the village, and once again, tree leaves shall bud anew. Gigi. Naruto cried, tears welling up in his eyes for the first time in ages. Gigi. Naruto-kun. Sarutobi whispered as he fell, still smiling. I leave this to you. You. Orochimaru hissed as Sarutobi hit the ground. You shitty old man. What's so funny? Sarutobi. Enma exclaimed as the snakes around him loosened. Leave this to you. Orochimaru growled as he walked up to Naruto, who glared up at him through teary eyes. He'll leave this to you, eh? I'll show him. Orochimaru raised his foot, and then stomped down. He was surprised, however, when his foot was caught by Enma, who had somewhat gotten free from the snakes. Touch the boy, he growled out, glaring up at Orochimaru. I dare you. TCH. Orochimaru gritted his teeth. Then, with a final glare at both Naruto and Sarutobi, he jumped off. Gigi. Naruto whispered, screwing his eyes shut. He couldn't bear to look at the old man anymore. To follow the path of the shinobi to the very end, was something that only Sarutobi could do. Enma said, sounding proud of the old Hokage. He entrusted his will to you, Naruto. I trust you'll take good care of it. A poof was heard, and Naruto suspected that Enma had returned to wherever he came from. There was another poof, after which Naruto felt that the blade in his chest was now gone. 2 taps were heard, wood against tile, and then a voice was heard. Naruto. Jiraiya. Naruto mumbled, keeping his eyes screwed shut. The seriousness of the situation could be heard by how Naruto didn't use an insulting nickname. I couldn't do anything. Jiraiya hushed him, and Naruto felt him turning the boy over to look at his wound. Quiet, you did more than anyone could ever have expected. Now, don't talk, or you'll make it worse. More footsteps were heard, along with gasps from several people. The sounds became distorted, and Naruto fell unconscious. Chapter end. It was 2 days after the battle. The enemy had been repelled, and Konoha was victorious. Many lives were lost, however, and much damage had been done to the village. Today, in the gloomy rain, the Konoha shinobi were gathered on top of the Hokage Tower for the memorial service for the Hokage and all the other ninja who had fallen in battle. All the shinobi wore loose, black clothing today, and naturally, there wasn't a smile to be seen for miles. Hinata and Sasuke stood at the front of the group. Kakashi had been late, but only slightly, and was now standing behind them. Hinata looked around in concern. Naruto-kun isn't here, she mumbled. I thought he got out of the hospital yesterday. Is he late? He was here before anyone, Sasuke commented, which got him a strange look from Hinata. In response, he pointed upward and to the right, toward the Hokage monument. Up there, on the Sandaim's head, a single figure could be seen sitting, staring down at the Hokage tower. Why is he up there? Hinata asked. Shouldn't he be paying his respects? He is. Don't you notice? He's on the Sandaim's head this time, Sasuke said, staring at the picture of the Sandaime, which was surrounded by flowers. And he has a decent view of the memorial. I'm guessing he just needs to be alone. Meanwhile, up on the monument, Naruto was gazing down at the Hokage tower with a deadened look in his eyes. He had been such a letdown during that fight. The power the three Hokage gave off had him so crippled. He hadn't even fought with his full skill, he'd been so afraid. He'd put up a brave front, but that was it. If he'd just managed to get over his fear, the old man might have lived still. Weak. Naruto's eyes widened upon hearing that, and he looked up at the top of the monument, seeing no one around. Must be my imagination, he thought, shaking his head as he looked back down at the Hokage tower. Slowly, his eyes drifted closed, and he gave a deep sigh. I really am weak, though. When Naruto opened his eyes again, he found himself standing in what could only be described as a dimly lit sewer. The hell, he muttered, only faux flinch as a loud roar pierced the silence. Furrowing his brow, and ignoring common sense they weren't exactly friends, Naruto headed off in the direction the roar had come from, entering a doorway in the damp corridor, to find himself staring up at a massive gate, behind which two blazing orange eyes could be seen staring at him. The eyes themselves were huge, easily bigger than Naruto's whole body. Kid, came a dark, guttural voice from within the cage. Come closer. Naruto just raised an eyebrow at that, staring into the cage as if the occupant was insane. This made the creature within the cage chuckle. You're not as stupid as you look, the voice rumbled, leaning closer to the bars. Naruto's eyes widened when out of the shadows came the head of a massive fox with long, rabbit-like ears. The eyes were something he easily recognized. He had seen flashes of them in his dreams. Kyuubi. I thought you might be too stupid to recognize me, the fox said, and Naruto noticed that he referred to himself with washi, a word usually used by old men. I had been hoping, more like. Perhaps I would have been able to get you to come closer and let me eat you. So, this is you, the cause of all my troubles. Naruto muttered, taking a few steps closer, but still keeping his distance from the demon. It's kinda amazing. We've been together for almost 14 years now, right? Because of a 1 in a million chance, you got sealed into my gut. You've been stuck here in the darkness for almost 14 years, and I've had to endure the villagers' hatred for almost 14 years, and yet, we've never met before. You probably know my name, but I don't even know yours, despite us being so connected. You know my name, brat, the Kyuubi grumbled, glaring down at Naruto. Why don't you use it? I thought Kyuubi was the name people had just given you, Naruto admitted. I thought, maybe, you had something else you'd like to be called. That's not what I meant, brat. Kyuubi barked in annoyance. I mean, I introduced myself the second I was sealed in here. Naruto twitched at that, then glared and pointed up at the fox. You can't blame me for not remembering that. Hell, of all things, your name would be the hardest to remember of that night, and yet I don't even remember my parents' dying words. Don't blame me because you were dumb enough to introduce yourself to a brat who was so young he'd be lucky enough to have even 2 sentient thoughts to piece together. You dare raise your voice at me, you little shit. The fox roared. If these bars weren't in the way, I'd crush you like the insect you are. Now, Naruto said, waving him off, calming down in an instant. Right, sorry, I shouldn't have yelled. The Kyuubi flinched as if struck at hearing that. But, you know, you picked a bad time to call me down here. I'm kinda bummed right now. Naruto took a deep breath, then grinned at Kyuubi and flashed him a thumbs up. Sorry, Fox, but I forgot. Let's reintroduce ourselves, yeah. I'm Senju Naruto, inheritor of the Will of Fire. Nice to meet you. The fox glared down at Naruto for what felt like the longest time. Kurama, brat. Don't forget it again. Again, nice to meet you, Kurama. It's Kurama. The fox roared as it slammed its head against the bars in a rage. Haha, sorry, a little joke, Naruto laughed, waving him off again. Telling me not to forget it again was like an invitation, after all. You're too serious for your own good, you know that. Kurama growled at Naruto, who turned around and walked away, giving a chuckle. Well, I'll talk to you again soon. I'm in mourning right now, and I'd rather be alone. Stop that, you brat. Kurama growled, which made Naruto stop and turn to look at him. Don't act all chipper. I'm inside you, remember? Don't expect me to buy that behavior when I just saw you sulk. I wasn't sulking. Naruto muttered. Besides, I didn't know you could see that, and I didn't want to drag you down with me. Didn't want. You got a lot of rage in your eyes, Naruto explained, staring up at Kurama. Usually, I would have probably dragged you down and made you feel guilty, since that's how I roll, but I figured you've got enough on your plate. You're feeling responsible, Kurama commented, laying down in his cage and staring at Naruto curiously. You feel like you were too weak to do anything to help. What's this now? You know, Naruto. If you were to remove this seal, and use my full power, you would never be too weak to do anything again. I'm bummed, not stupid, Kurama, Naruto said with a snort. I'm a trickster too, remember? I'm not so easily fooled. Naruto smiled slightly at the fox. Well, I'll talk to you later when I've cheered up a bit. If I wanted conversation, I'd find someone better than you to talk to. Probably, but it's not like you have a large amount of people to choose from. Kurama grunted in agreement at that, and Naruto closed his eyes, focusing. When they snapped open again, he found himself sitting in the rain once more on top of the Hokage monument. Gritting his teeth, Naruto flashed through hand seals, finishing in a snake seal. The Hokage monument rumbled, drawing the attention of the people on the roof of the Hokage tower. Before their eyes, a massive tree grew out of the top of the monument, then another, and another, twisting together and forming a shape, merging with each other. Within moments, the tree stopped growing, showing that it had taken the shape of the Sandaime Hokage, donning his Hokage robes with his trademark pipe hanging from his mouth, which was curved up in a wide smile. The tree version of the Sandaime had its arms behind his back, a pose one had usually seen the Sandaime in. TCH, Sasuke uttered, a small smirk on his face as he looked up at the wooden Hokage. All around them, murmuring was heard as the other shinobi whispered to each other and pointed up at it. That Naruto. Talk about paying his respects. I think that tree captures Hokage-sama's personality more than the stone face. Hinata mumbled, smiling as well. You didn't have to buy me ramen to cheer me up. Naruto muttered as he sat at Ichiraku Ramen with Hinata and Sasuke, both of whom were looking at him with concern. I'm fine. Don't go bullshitting me, Sasuke said, eating his ramen with considerably less fervor than Naruto. Any idiot who's known you for more than a day can see that you're sulking. Don't you go feeling like you didn't contribute in that fight. But I didn't. I was so scared, I could barely do anything but offer some support. Naruto muttered. Well, then you contributed. Don't beat yourself up about it, Sasuke said with a shrug. But since Orochimaru bugged out as soon as the Hokage was dead, was that his only reason for coming here? No. He's made some reincarnation jutsu that allows him to transfer his soul to another body, Naruto said. He claimed that he'd found a new, younger, more beautiful body to possess. He glanced at Sasuke. Yours. He called me beautiful. Sasuke asked, narrowing his eyes in disgust. Or was that just you sugarcoating it? Nope, he said, more beautiful. Sasuke's nose scrunched up. Even if I were into older men, he's definitely not my type. Naruto grunted in agreement, and got back to eating his ramen. Then, he froze and slowly turned toward Sasuke, giving him an incredulous look. Wait, older men. Don't you mean men in general? No, I'm pretty sure I meant what I said, Sasuke said, smirking at Naruto. It's never struck you as odd that I have never once so much as glanced at a woman, even though pretty much everyone is practically begging to be my girlfriend. Naruto flinched. You mean, does that bother you? Naruto shot out of his seat and pointed an accusatory finger at Sasuke. We've been in the hot springs together. Naruto, I think of you as a brother, Sasuke said with a smile. Don't worry, you're not my type. Hinata. Naruto barked, pointing at their teammate. Did you know? Hinata flinched at being the center of attention, since even Sasuke was looking at her curiously. I didn't know, she mumbled, gulping. I suspected, though. Naruto's mouth opened and closed a few times. Then, He scratched his head in frustration. This is pretty big, he muttered. Why haven't you told me this before? First of all, I haven't really been completely sure, and second of all, I thought I'd let you mature a bit before I told you. Otherwise, I'm sure you would have taken the first opportunity you found to tell a gay joke. Of course I would've. Naruto cried. It's the funniest when the jab is aimed at someone close to you. He was silent for a moment, contemplating something. Wait, does that mean that maybe homosexuality isn't infectious? Naruto, stop being homoph. Sasuke was interrupted when Naruto grabbed his collar and smashed their lips together in a kiss, making Sasuke's eyes widen as a furious blush appeared on his face. His blush was nothing compared to Hinata's, however. Her face was burning so hot, steam could almost see rising from it. Naruto broke the kiss and leaned back, closing his eyes in thought. The hell are you doing? A blushing Sasuke barked, glaring at Naruto, who suddenly gave a triumphant grin. That did not feel right, he announced happily. Sweet, I'm not gay. With that, Naruto furiously wiped his mouth, spat 3 times on the ground, then sat back down again and went back to eating. Really, though, I'm happy that you've come to terms with it, and that you're comfortable with it. Sasuke was still blushing from the forceful kiss, and looked back to his ramen feeling a bit uncomfortable. Thanks, he muttered with a huff. I hope you have no problem with this, Hinata. Both ninja turned toward the female of the team when she didn't respond. Her face was still bright red, and she was staring at Sasuke and Naruto in complete and utter shock. Her mouth was moving slightly as though she was attempting to speak. Then, she promptly fell back, passing out. Ah, Hinata. Really, though, Sasuke said as he and Naruto walked through Konoha, having dropped Hinata off at the Hyuga compound. When the alarmed Hyuga guards asked what happened to the unconscious Hinata, an awkward Naruto had just responded with, yaoi overload. Really what? Naruto asked, chewing on a dango stick. They had stopped by Sasuke's favorite dango place for a few sticks. Any more shocking revelations? No, I'm talking about you, Sasuke said. You shouldn't blame yourself. Your opponents were the 2 first Hokage. Both of them have been labeled ninja gods by their enemies. It shouldn't be surprising that you couldn't do much to them. I've heard that the Shodai's chakra was so intense that he could create a sort of pressure that could shatter the ground beneath him. The fact that you were intimidated fighting both of them doesn't exactly label you as weak. I doubt I would have fared any better. It's not really working, Sasuke, but thanks for trying to cheer me up, Naruto muttered, rolling the dango stick from one corner of his mouth to the other. Then, he stopped and perked up. Hey, have we created any Kage Bunshin lately? No. Sasuke muttered. Why? I'm sensing a chakra source nearby. 2 of them, actually. One has a chakra supply about as great as my own, and the other's chakra supply is greater than yours, but feels almost exactly the same. Sasuke's eyes widened at that. Almost exactly the same. What do you mean? Well, you know how I've said that when you activate your Sharingan, your chakra feels darker. Naruto asked, to which Sasuke nodded. This chakra has that darkness in it. But I thought your clan was killed. Sasuke, still wide-eyed, came to a realization. Which means that there's only one person that chakra could belong to. Meanwhile, near the outskirts of the village, 2 shinobi were walking along a small river. Both were wearing black cloaks with red clouds printed on them, along with straw hats. The taller of the 2 had a sword on his back, a massive, thick sword wrapped in bandages. The duo stopped suddenly, finding their path blocked by 2 Konoha Junin, Sarutobi Asuma and Yuhi Kurenai. It's been a long time, Asuma-san, Kurenai-san, the shorter of the 2 said in a rather pleasant tone of voice. So, you're a shinobi from this village, Asuma said, puffing on his cigarette. What did you come here for? The shorter of the duo lifted his straw hat slightly, revealing his eyes, both of which had a blazing Sharingan in them, which made Asuma and Kurenai go wide-eyed. No doubt about it. Asuma muttered as the shinobi removed his straw hat and unbuttoned his cloak slightly, revealing a young face with black hair, lines under his eyes, and a Konoha forehead protector with a slash through it. Uchiha Itachi. So, you're already acquainted with Itachi-san, huh? Then, I also need to introduce myself, the taller of the duo said as he removed his own straw hat, to reveal a blue-skinned man with very sharp teeth, beady eyes, and what looked like gills on his cheekbones. Hoshigaki Kisame. Nice to make your acquaintance. You're not making an acquaintances here, Asuma said with a small smirk on his face. It looks like we've got the task to take you on. Itachi-san, your home village doesn't seem to like you very much, Kisame commented. I've also heard of you, Kurenai said, staring at Kisame. Hoshigaki Kisame, formerly of Kurigakure no Sato. A renegade ninja wanted by numerous countries, including the Water Country, for assassinating a feudal lord, and sabotage, as well as various other crimes. You boys are listed as S-rank criminals in the bingo book, you know, Asuma said, the smirk disappearing. Itachi, coming back to this village after what you pulled. Asuma-san, Kurenai-san, I have no wish to kill you, Itachi said. Please do not interfere with my affairs. Can't really just walk away, Asuma said. What is your purpose here? Suddenly, Kisame grabbed his sword and swung it down with enough force to crack the ground when it hit, kicking up a lot of dust. This person is quite annoying, the shark man said, a grin on his face. Shall I kill him? It does look like we can't leave the village without a fight, Itachi said, not looking away from Asuma for a second. But don't overdo it. Your style attracts too much attention. It's settled, then, Kisame said as he lifted his sword again to rest it against his shoulder. For a few moments, there was silence as everyone just stared at each other. Then, Kisame moved with incredible speed, swinging at Asuma, who drew a pair of trench knives and blocks the swing. Asuma gritted his teeth as he struggled, the sword coming lower and lower. I'm being pushed down by just the tip of his sword. What kind of monster is he? Slowly, the sword was placed against Asuma's shoulder, which made Kisame grin. The shark man pulled the sword back, making Asuma grunt in pain when he felt something tear against his shoulder, looking to see the bandages coming off the sword's tip, revealing not a blade, but a series of downward-facing scales running along the entirety of its length. My great sword Samahata doesn't cut, it shaves. Kisame announced with a grin. Suddenly, Asuma grinned slightly, despite the pain. Kurenai, you're late. Kisame's eyes widened as it appeared as though he suddenly started sinking into the ground, but Itachi looked quite unaffected, even as roots shot up from the ground and wrapped around him, a tree forming behind him. Above the Uchiha, Kurenai came out of the tree trunk, raising a kunai. This is the end, Kurenai announced, stabbing the kunai downward. A blink was all it took, and Kurenai suddenly found that the tables had turned. All of a sudden she was the one wrapped up in roots, and before her stood Itachi, looking emotionless as usual. Genjutsu of this level have no effect on me. This is Genjutsu counter. Kurenai thought as Itachi drew a kunai. She closed her eyes and bit her own lip, drawing blood. The pain was enough to cancel the genjutsu, and she opened her eyes in time to see Itachi coming at her. She ducked, the swipe from the kunai only managing to cut a few of her hairs, but that wasn't enough. A foot came flying at her at an intense speed, and she raised her arms to block. The kick was powerful, though, and sent her flying out over the river. Kurenai! Asuma yelled, looking in her direction, which made Kisame chuckle as he raised his sword again. Not paying attention will be the end of you. The sword came swinging down just as Asuma turned to him, but he wouldn't have enough time to block. The Samahata impacted with flesh, but it wasn't Asuma's. In front of the Junin stood none other than Naruto, who had raised his arms in an X and blocked the strike. Asuma looked toward the airborne Kurenai, to see her get caught in the air by Sasuke, who set her down on the water. Sorry to steal the spotlight, Naruto said with a small grin on his face. Smelled the Uchiha, and you know how Sasuke is. If he wants something, he'll go get it. And who are you? Kisame asked, grinning as well. Powerful brat, to be able to block my Samahata like this. It's considered polite to give your own name before asking another's. Too true. Hoshigaki Kisame. Pleasure to make your acquaintance. Senju Naruto. The pleasure's mine, Naruto said, nodding in Kisame's direction. Kisame's beady, bloodshot eyes widened at that. Senju Naruto, the Kyuubi boy. Itachi-san, our search didn't take too long. Itachi didn't respond, however. He had locked eyes with Sasuke, who was staring back with a remarkable calm. It's been a long time, Sasuke, Itachi spoke calmly. Uchiha Itachi. Sharingan. Kisame asked, looking away from Naruto to stare at Sasuke. Who is this, Itachi-san? My little brother. I thought you killed your entire clan. Sasuke gritted his teeth when Kisame mentioned that. His fists clenched, and a look of incredible rage appeared on his face. Sasuke. Naruto barked. Hit the freaking brake. Don't rush in just because you're a little angry. Naruto seemed to be able to snap Sasuke out of his anger, because he finally broke eye contact with Itachi to give his friend a glare. A little angry. My hatred isn't just a small thing. That is a subjective, philosophical point of view. And it would be better discussed elsewhere. Hey, what an amusing pair. Kisame said, grinning widely. At least you have manners. Only when it counts, Naruto said, grinning as well. Kisame, bring the boy, Itachi ordered, walking up to the railing and climbing up on it, before jumping down onto the river. Understood. Naruto's eyes widened when he suddenly felt pain in his arms, and he pushed the sword off him, jumping back out of reach. Naruto, are you alright? Asuma asked, his eyes wide as Naruto landed next to him. Yeah, somehow, Naruto muttered, looking down at his forearms to see that the scales on the sword had sliced into them. There's something freaky about that sword. You noticed, eh? Kisame asked, sounding proud. That's right. My Samahata eats chakra. That reinforcing technique you used to solidify your arms won't work against this sword. Naruto, grateful though I am that you blocked that attack. I'm a Junin, and you're a Genin. Asuma muttered, which made Naruto grin again. You'd feel kinda pathetic if a Genin had to fight in your stead. Yeah. Don't worry, Kisame spoke as he started going through hand seals. I'll target you both at once. Suiten. Suikuden no Jutsu, Water Element. Water Shark Bullet Technique. Naruto flashed through seals as well as the water in the river rose and shot toward Naruto and Asuma, taking the shape of a shark. Doten. Shikyu Domu, Earth Element. Earth Dome, he exclaimed as he knelt, pressing his hand against the ground. Around him and Asuma, the earth rose up to form a rock-hard dome around them. Naruto hummed as they heard the water shark crash against the dome. Well, he seems to be a water type. If you want to take charge in this, I don't suppose you know any earth techniques. Asuma closed his eyes and let out a HRHM as he puffed on his cigarette. Very few. I'm mostly a wind and fire type. Then, shall I? Yeah, I suppose you'll have to. Bring him down as best you can. I'll sneak attack whenever I can, and keep that sword away from you, Asuma said. Even though you have a massive amount of chakra, it'd still be a waste to have it eat it all. Hey, thanks for the consideration, Naruto said with a small grin. Suddenly, the dome was shattered, courtesy of Samahata, which smashed straight through the stone as though it was paper. Hide and seek is over, Kisame said, grinning. The grin didn't last, however, as Naruto had apparently not been as shocked as he had expected. Therefore, he didn't see it coming when Naruto flew out of the hole in the dome and nailed him with a right that sent him flying. Naruto flinched when the hit connected, however, and as he landed on the ground, his hand came up to clutch at his chest. Damn it. Kisame landed in a heap a great distance away, so Naruto had time to grunt in pain. What's wrong, Naruto? Asuma asked, climbing out of the hole in the dome. It's strange, this wound hasn't been healing properly. Naruto muttered, rubbing his chest. There was some kind of poison on Orochimaru's Kusanagi. It seems even the healing factor provided by the Kyuubi is having trouble dealing with it. I couldn't put as much power in that punch as I had wanted. Meanwhile, Sasuke was caught in another staring match with Itachi. Uchiha Itachi. Sorry to tell you, I haven't lived how you wanted me to, Sasuke said. Unlike most times when he fought people, he wasn't smirking. He was looking dead serious. Kurenai-sensei, he muttered to the Junin behind him. I'll fight this guy. Stay out of the way. Sasuke. You're just a genin. I can't. Sasuke looked over his shoulder at Kurenai, his Sharingan blazing. From what I hear, you're a genjutsu specialist, Kurenai-sensei. That's just about useless against these eyes. Besides, he muttered and turned to look back at Itachi. This river is going to spark soon. I wouldn't want you to be caught in it. Kurenai's eyes widened in realization, and she jumped off immediately. Got you, came Sasuke's cry from behind Itachi, who perked up and jumped away just as a lightning-covered hand passed through the air he had just occupied a nanosecond earlier. The Sasuke who had been standing by Kurenai disappeared in a puff of smoke, and the real Sasuke's Chidori punched into the water. Damn, Itachi thought as he flew through the air, heading toward the electrified river. There was a puff of smoke, and when it cleared, a cage bunchen of Itachi was below him. He landed on the clone's shoulders and jumped off toward solid ground again, Sasuke deactivating his jutsu and following. Sasuke started, but stopped when he heard a roar from Kisame on the other side of the river. He turned his head to see the shark man leaping at Naruto, who seemed to be in pain, swinging his sword. Naruto. Sasuke made to jump off, but there was suddenly an explosion of smoke, and when it cleared, an armor-clad toad had appeared between Kisame and Naruto, blocking the attack. There was another explosion of smoke behind the toad. This time, the smoke revealed Jiraiya standing there, a massive grin on his face. Men shiver, ladies swoon. The great Jiraiya-sama has arrived. Sorry, Sasuke, Itachi said, making Sasuke's eyes widen at the reminder of their past together. Next time, perhaps. You too. Did you think you could just waltz out of this village without problem? Jiraiya barked, pointing at Itachi. Don't think about running now. Kisame, let's go. The duo took off, quickly followed by Asuma, Kurenai, and Jiraiya. Sasuke made to follow, but a hand on his shoulder stopped him. Wait, Naruto said, having closed the distance between them and stopped Sasuke from going after Itachi. You'd get killed if you fought him now. What? Sasuke hissed, turning to glare at him. Don't underestimate me, Naruto. You're still not past it, Naruto said calmly, not affected by Sasuke's anger. Hell, you almost snapped at the mere mention of your clan. Not only that, but Itachi is incredibly skilled. The Junin are following two-cage Bunshin, one using a henge to look like Kisame. What? Sasuke asked, his eyes widening. When did he? No doubt at the same time as he made a clone to spring off of. I relaxed my senses to focus on the fight with Kisame, and when I put them up again, two of Itachi were running away, even though one of them looked like Kisame. The real ones are heading in the opposite direction. None of us can compete with speed like that as we are now. But, not to mention, he has that Mangekyo Sharingan. Naruto barked. It pains me to say this, but he's too strong. Relax. You'll get him next time. Naruto could feel how tense Sasuke was. Hell, Sasuke was even shivering. Then, the shivering slowly stopped, and he visibly relaxed. You're right. Next time. Besides, a fight with Itachi would bring attention, Naruto said as the two turned around and walked off. And fighting him, you'd probably want as few people joining in as possible, to avoid collateral damage, right? So, what did you think? Love it? Hate it? Remember to leave a comment. Peace. Thanks for listening. I hope you guys liked it. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like for more what ifs and support the author. See you guys in the next video.